Okay. Okay. Hey, nerds. On today's episode, we welcome a very special guest. We have Gillian West joining us. This lovely, brilliant woman is the mind behind the novel Ruin, First in the Furnace duology. Ruin is a romantasy book filled with complex characters, magic, amazing new worlds, and the best kind of slow burn. Make sure you read this month with us and fangirl along the way. Welcome, everyone.
Thank
Welcome.
you.
Yay.
Happy to be here. Woo!
Oh, sorry. Hold
We got some dogs in here.
Honestly, like it's always such chaos when we first start. It's usually can Ashley find the record button, and then
Right.
it's either her dogs going off or one of my children going off. It just kind of depends, like what's happening at the moment. So
Sorry, they're
Honestly,
monsters.
usually there would be Walter. Like, I'm surprised Walter's not in the background here with his giant donut because he just got fixed. So you might see him at some point.
Oh,
Is
no.
that your
Little donut.
dog?
Yeah. He's a giant golden retriever. He's an English
my
cream golden
gosh.
retriever.
And is that a little cat in the background I see?
This is my cat Ari. She's like, we call her Murder Cat. She has a lot of feelings.
You know, cats seem to have a lot of feelings. You should
Yeah.
see Chanel's cat that wanders
Yeah.
around
Yeah,
here.
She's around. Oh, she's sleeping right now next to
Oh,
in her
cute.
cat tree. So she's over it.
So yeah, if we see Walter, we'll probably yell his name. Whenever we see Mia, she randomly shows up. It's just us randomly screaming her name. Like
Mia.
if people listen and don't watch, they're probably like, "What's going on?" Like,
So do you do
who is Mia? Like,
do you put up the
what girl is
recording
this?
as well? Like the
yeah. So
Okay,
we'll put
I'll-
this up on YouTube, and then
Okay.
we release the audio too. Mhm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
As long as you're okay with that.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Let me move the camera so that the litter box isn't in the way.
Yeah.
Oh, well, you can see there she is. She's a monster.
Mhm.
See her back
Juliet.
there?
Oh my goodness.
You gotta
Look
be
at that
good.
angel.
You notice how they didn't bark when we weren't recording, and the minute we hit record,
I
it started
know.
barking.
Mhm.
They were
Hello,
like,
I'm here.
this is official now.
But if I lock them out of the room, they'll just scratch at the door. Anyways,
Right.
I digress.
I digress.
Okay, do you want to get back into that, what we were talking about, fan fiction? Like, I did not know your writing process for fan fiction, if you want.
Yeah. My writing process for fan fiction and for original work is pretty much the same. It's very similar, I guess. For original work, it's a lot more involved. But yeah, I always, from the beginning, have written the entire fic first. And then once it's done, and once I've like edited it to the best of my ability, because I'm really bad at punctuation, I will then upload it week by week. And for me, because I'm a writer that likes to leave like Easter eggs and like bring like through line, like bring themes through. And for me, like I just couldn't ever imagine writing. There's so many times that I write something and halfway through I'm like, oh, that's a theme. Let me go back and add that to the beginning. And the idea of like y'all having read it and then me going back and being like, okay, but reread it. Go back. Hold on. Go back.
Go back.
I changed that sentence.
Yeah. Plus, it's just like it would be very anxiety inducing for me to do that. And I'm a very fast writer. I wrote The Gallows in a week, in
That's
7 days.
crazy. That's
So,
so
like,
impressive.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I don't know. I have trauma, but but yeah, I would say like I also write so quickly that it's pretty easy for me to like. I wrote Desire and Destruction in like I think in a week as well. In Silence and Submission was like a month, I think. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one I'm
So,
reading
yeah.
right now. Is I'm like going through the whole thing right now. So
my whole discography.
Yep, just hitting all the hits.
Well,
That's
I
fun.
wanted to read one of your fan fictions before I got into your amazing book that I'm so excited about. So I read The Gallows in like a day because I could not
Mhm.
stop reading it, which is not like me. And when I tell you that fan fiction is amazing, and
Oh, thank
I don't
you.
know how people write it, like you said earlier, offline, like one chapter at a time, because I would have been so stressed out. I was like
Yeah.
going so quickly to the next chapter to see what was
Yeah.
happening.
Mhm.
It was a very, I've said this before, but like the experience of The Gallows was very different for me because uploading in Silence and Submission, it became popular as I was uploading, if that makes
Mhm.
sense.
I
Like
remember that.
before In Silence and Submission, like MCA, like some people liked it, and it was like people like there were like specific circles of people that were like, hey, this is pretty good. And then there were other circles that were like, how dare you write anything like this? But In Silence and Submission was really like where people started noticing me more, I guess, as a writer, and talking about me more as a writer. So I kind of experienced like a very slow progression. And then like I wrote a lot of like really short fics that no one ever really talks about, like The Hunt. And I wrote like
that's my favorite, The Hunt.
Thank you. No one ever, I never hear anything about it, but like I wrote a Jegulus one shot. I wrote a Hermione one shot. I have some like Raylo one shots that I wrote that I really love and that like nobody really ever talk about. And Desire and Destruction and Impassive Flame, which is a serious Hermione like Dracula situation.
Ooh.
So I had written like all of these like little guys and like just kind of been like, oh, okay, like cool. And then I remember I announced The Gallows at like in like the beginning of May or something like that, or like end of April, because I had written it at the end of March. And from the first post that I made, it was just different. Like the reactions were different, the engagement was different. And then from the first chapter, the whole experience was different. And it was very, it was much more intense and much more, people were very excited. And people were very engaged in a way that I was not used to. And most of the time that was really, really lovely. There were some really intense experiences. Like somebody took the fic and changed Hermione to Harry and then uploaded it on AO3 as if it was their own fic. And then I was getting Drarry people coming into my comments telling me that I was stealing my own work.
The original work.
Dude,
that's so fucking wild.
Yeah, it was like really weird to be told.
But like, couldn't they see that like the timestamp you posted like April 1st, and then that person posted it April 5th? Couldn't they see the time?
Well, so they weren't looking on AO3, they were looking on my TikTok. So I would be promoting it on my TikToks and they would be like, you stole this idea. And I'd be like, what are you talking about? But that's actually a very rampant issue that's happening right now, is that people are taking it hasn't just happened to me. It's happened to so many authors.
I've seen it on
so many writers.
TikTok. People talking about it. I cannot believe that it's such a like common problem that's happening.
Yeah. And that was the first time that anything like that had happened to me. And it was very much, bye, Ari. See you later.
It's like,
Ari. But yeah, I would say like The Gallows really like shot off in a direction that I really wasn't anticipating. And it was nice. It was a nice kind of coinciding with Ruin. But yeah.
Well, obviously like it was like good things, right? Like you get a lot of popularity, people interest, but like you said, bad stuff comes with that too when you're
I think it's like I truly tried to focus on like the amount of people that felt very seen and felt especially there's a heavy portrayal of trauma within that, and I had a few comments from people being like, wow, like you really did your research on PTSD and trauma, and like, wow, like you really did your research. And I wanted to be like, I just lived. I'm sorry.
You're like, it's just the trauma. It makes
lived. I just lived this.
Yeah. You're like life.
But yeah, no, it was lovely to like. It was a really lovely experience to have so many people reading it at once, and so many people consuming it and enjoying it and feeling seen or taken care of or whatever. And there's always obviously the opposite end of the coin, but I feel very, very grateful that fic did as well as it did, and I think that really contributed as well to the success of Ruin, I guess, if you can consider Ruin successful.
Yes.
But I would say so.
Can.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Very cool. Yay.
Well, before we transition, because I want to hear more about Ruin, I just wanted to say before, unless we talk about anyone else about fanfic, I just, especially The Gallows, like you said, with the trauma, I think sometimes, even in books and stuff, I know I feel like people kind of speed up or gloss over how traumatic something can be. So it was so different to read your book and read the traumatic Draco character and it not be resolved in 2 chapters. And it's like he's back to normal. And so no
Even within the
spoilers, Chanel,
epilogue.
but yeah, like
Yeah,
just to see it like be a constant like wave that happens and it's not like it just goes away. It was so refreshing. Just like,
Thank you.
and also I tell everyone to read The Hunt. That's what I was telling everyone at my job to read because I read that first out of
At
everything.
your
And I was just
job?
like, well,
Stacey's crazy. Okay.
I'm crazy.
Like,
Well, tell her what you do, Stacey.
okay, so I'm a nurse, and when I tell you that like no one had ever heard of fan fiction, and now all these nurses, male nurses included, I just make them read fan fiction, and
it's crazy.
that was a really popular one because no one had ever heard of like the Omega verse before. Like I'm telling people what like nodding is and stuff, and they're like, "What is that?" And it's like,
Yeah.
I was like,
She's
"Let
like,
me tell
do you
you."
even take care of your patients, or you just
Yes.
smutty?
It's like-
Chanel, I can do
this
so
is my
many
hand
things.
gesture for nurse things, but yeah, the Hunt was so funny because I had gotten really into sweet verse from Catherine Moon, like Lola and the Millionaires. If you haven't read Lola and the Millionaires, you should. Oh, you should. It's
I'm
really
adding
good.
it right now.
It's a duology.
Stacey sent it to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was very inspired by like that sort of aspect of Omega verse where it's like there's like no like shifting that happens. It's pretty much just like some dicks have knots and there's alpha, betas, and omegas. And that like females can be alphas as well as males.
Oh, okay. I've heard that. I've heard of that.
Yeah, because in the Hunt, I think it's been so long, but Ari here.
She wants to be part of it.
In the Hunt, Pansy is an alpha.
Yeah.
I'm reading this fanfic. Pansy's my favorite. Pansy needs to be an alpha. I'm like
Yeah.
100% here for it.
I
Can
know,
I
it's so
help
good.
you?
She's so pretty.
She's like, I need to be a part of this.
She's like, I have feelings.
I have feelings too.
Baby.
Like, I will murder everyone
Kitty
here.
baby.
Anyways. But yeah, I think honestly, yeah, the hunt is a fun one. And then my only dead dove that I've ever written is Desire and Destruction. Have any of you read that?
No, no, I haven't read that one yet.
But
I'm
I love a
reading
good
Silence
dead
and Submission
dove.
right now.
I don't know if I've read a dead dove. Sorry.
I would say this is
You
Dead
would
Dove
know
light.
if you've read one.
Yeah, you would know. It's I would say Dead Dove light. Like I don't tag it as Dead Dove, but like you should read the tags. But it's like a vampire hunter Hermione, vampire Draco.
I'm already in. I know.
In. I like don't want to spoil anything, but yeah, it's like vampire Draco, vampire like set in the 1700s.
Okay.
Sort of situation.
Okay.
I love it.
Yeah.
Already love it. But yeah, these sound great.
Now that I've just pitched all my fanfics to you.
Right.
Well, it's okay because what's so funny is like our episode last week we were giving Rex, and so I was wrecking like your fanfics, and Ashley was so mad because I went first, and she knew I was gonna. She's like, "Oh, Stacey stole my Rex," because we were both like going through them.
I thought you were gonna have she was a different one of yours, but I thought she was gonna have my exact one. But I mean, I haven't read fan fiction in months, probably. So like that's the first one I've read in a while. It's like I miss it so much. This is amazing.
Yeah.
I'm very much into reading Raylo fanfic right now.
Ooh.
So
yes. It's such a vibe. It's so
it's
I haven't read it in so
good.
long though, but yeah.
If you read anything, you should read The Fix by Okapi Jones. She wrote Every Piece of Me is Dead and Buried.
I have that one saved.
It is a fucking masterpiece. Like I was sobbing reading it. I've become very lucky to like be acquaintances and like talk with her now because I literally just like rolled into her DMs and was like, "Hi, hello."
I love it.
Definitely
me.
writing that down because
it's incredible. She's an incredible writer. She has like a Raylo whip going right now. So that's who I highly recommend if you want to read some Raylo.
Yes.
Okay.
Project 34 is a great one. Yeah, I have a lot of great Raylo Rex. If
Yeah.
you need any, just hit me up.
Yes.
Always.
I'm in
Yeah.
a Raylo mood because I'm reading A Monsoon Rising.
Oh, nice.
Monsoon. So I'm like,
Amazing.
might, yeah, after that, get it.
Landscape with the Blur of Conquerors was my Raylo introduction.
Oh,
that was
wow.
the first one I read too, and then Heartbreak Prince.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah, Heartbreak
Prince was my first
God.
one. That was my first one. So I was obsessed.
Yeah.
Whenever I read fics now that have like a young Severus or like a hot Severus Snape, it's Adam Driver. In my
It
head.
is
Always.
Adam
Yes.
Driver,
Has to be.
100%, 100%. Yeah.
This
100%.
podcast is going really well so far.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about your book at all.
I know.
I love it though, because it almost feels like when we first started the podcast and we only did fan fiction, because this is like what I felt like we talked about. It was just this all the time. So
Yeah.
We're like, yeah, we got to actually do books.
Yeah.
But yeah. We gotta segue.
We can transition. Okay, so Ashley and Chanel have not started Ruin.
I've
was
started
obsessed.
it, but I'm just like a
Oh,
chapter.
I was
well,
gonna say, yeah, we're
okay,
in the
sorry.
early first chapters.
Okay.
Cool.
Cool.
I usually like burn through books so quick, and I'm like taking my time and like trying to like, you know,
Savor
write things
it.
down. Savor it, because I'm like such a like I gotta know the end kind of person. But so if you want to just like kind of talk about it, maybe talk about how you got inspiration for it. I'm just
Yeah.
it is the characters are the female character I already fell in love with. No spoilers, when she touched that tree and it turned to ash, like in the very, very beginning, I was just like, okay, like I love her. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
No, that's great. I honestly, Aurelia went through so many different iterations of who she was as a character. So I really wanted to write a female main character, especially that you rooted for. And that kind of felt like your best friend, where sometimes she's making those choices where you're like, baby, please. Look at that man. He's so beautiful.
Look at him.
But no, I mean, so Ruin is, for all intents and purposes, it's inspired by Hades and Persephone. But I feel like to call it a Hades and Persephone retelling almost like sells it short, just because it's inspired by so many different things, so many different mythologies and different stories. But essentially, so for a long time, I had been wanting to write a Hades and Persephone inspired story. But I didn't really know what I wanted to write. So it was just kind of like looping in my head. And then in September of 2022, my husband took me to see Hadestown.
I was just about to ask you if you'd seen it. Okay, sorry.
Yeah.
You beat me to it.
And on the intermission, I'm like watching it, like my eyes are like so big, and I'm just like, my brain is like going so fast.
Yeah, all these ideas.
Yeah, at the intermission, I texted Farah, "Hello, darkness, darling,"
yeah.
and I was like, I have an idea for a book. And she was like, okay, tell me everything. And like, I'm like furiously typing to her. I still have the text messages too, of like, these are my ideas, like blah, 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 blah. And then while we were like waiting to leave the parking lot, because it took like 45 minutes to leave the parking lot at the end of the show, I'm like furiously writing down in my notes app like my ideas. And it's funny to read those notes because it has changed so much. But the idea that really stuck with me was the concept of Orpheus's song, and how his song would bring spring back to the world and bring life back into the world. And that really stuck with me as an idea of like, what if you have the power of life in your voice? And then it's the dichotomy of life in your voice and death in your touch. So how would those two things war within you, and how would that shape you, especially in a circumstance where you are kept isolated, you're kept, you're desperate for any affection and any attention, but at the same time feeling dangerous and like you can't trust yourself. And it's like this strange kind of push and pull that you feel. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have Ren, who has kind of consigned himself to being the villain and just accepting that is the role that he has to play. And this aspect of him where he's the king of the dead. He's Hades for all intents and purposes. And the fact that like every time he dies, so he can die and he resurrects. And every time he dies, this is not a spoiler. This is, I think, in the back of the book. I'm pretty sure it's in the back of the book.
And
but
it's you learn so early too. I think about like the second chapter. I think it talks about him
every
doing that.
time and every time he dies, he loses a piece of himself. And so by the time you meet Ren, he is a shell of himself. He is, you know, very cold, and he knows it, and he's self-aware, and it's this desperation for the light. And so there's this female main character who is so desperate for touch, and this male main character who cannot bear to be touched and yet wants it so badly. So it's like, I don't know, I really latched onto that concept. And I've just been chattering away about this for so long. But anyways,
please keep going.
It makes me so excited to get into this even more than I was.
It was an interesting experience writing it, because I wrote the first draft in like 2 months, and that was really the first time that I had built my own world. And that experience was really interesting, because I had like essentially a Word document, and I would literally just put like all of the characters and their names, what they look like, their pronouns, how they relate. Somebody actually asked me to put a genealogy into the book, which I'm actually going to put into the second book. I can't put it in the first book, but there's just like reasons, but I'll put it in the second book. But yeah, so it's like, and building why the world works the way that it does, and how magic comes to play, and how a world, I had to spend a lot of time thinking about how a world where magic is the everyday norm and humans are not really a part of it, how that shapes people and shapes gods especially. So yeah, it was a really interesting experience, and I had to make up my own language, which was also a very interesting experience, because I originally had them using what I feel like a lot of people do, which is Gaelic. And then I had a beta reader who I am so grateful for, who came to me and said, she was like, you've made this whole world. Why are you relying on things from our world? Like essentially like put your big girl pants on and make up kind of thing. A language. Yeah. And it was really hard.
I was gonna say, how hard was that?
So I've learned, I have a process now, because I just recently finished writing like a sci-fi romance, and I like made up my whole like planets and words and things like that. So I now have like a way that I do it, and essentially the way that I do it is I look up words in different languages, and then I play around with those words over and over and over again, and change things, and literally just say them out loud until I find something that feels right. So in the book, Ren calls Aurelia Ishara, and that was a word that I can't exactly, I think honestly Ishara just kind of like, I just was like playing around with like letters together and thinking about like what sounds romantic.
Yeah, like you have to base it in our languages, but like you said, kind of mix it up. And
it's a lot of staring off into space and just like making sounds.
Until
my husband's like, are you okay?
Yeah.
I'm like, Ishara. Lathira. Lathira Nathara. Okay, cool. Great.
That's so cool though.
What's happening?
Yeah. But yeah, it was a very interesting experience, and but I think I grew a lot as a writer. This book went through 38 drafts.
Wow.
Before it got published. And like I was telling y'all before, at the 9th hour, so I had a very long process with it where I tried to sell it, and I tried to I queried agents, and I also queried publishers that are open to non-agented authors. And I had some like very near misses. And it was like every time I was like, okay, I'm ready to indie publish, like the traditional door would like creak open and they'd be like, hey, and then they'd be like, oh no, never mind. And so then in February of last year was really, or February of this past year was when I was like, okay, like I'm done trying to do this trad. Like I have other stories. I have a backlog of 4 different manuscripts that I would like to then do something with. And so that was when I was like, okay, I'm ready to indie publish. And I took it to my friend Angie, the Big Little Library, who I consider like my closer. And so I pretty much was like, here, I have X amount of time before I have to give this to my sensitivity reader. And she was like, okay. And so she read it. We had a 4-hour FaceTime while she was in Hawaii. And I had to write, I rewrote like 40% of the book.
Wow. Dang. That's amazing for you. And what a friend. Like,
right?
That's so cool. Yeah.
With book 2, thank God I didn't have to rewrite 40% of the book.
That's so much.
She read Reckoning, and it was really funny because I sent her Reckoning and was like, and she was like, okay, this is probably going to take me about a week to read, and then I'll get back to you. And like probably after I come back from the signing, because she came here for my very first signing. I was like, okay, that's fine, no worries. She starts reading it, texts me the next day, and I was like, okay, well, I'm done. I read it.
Sounds like Stacy.
Yeah, sounds like.
And it was literally just like her sending me texts, just going, oh fuck, what the fuck, holy shit, oh my fucking god, what the fuck is happening? Oh my god. And then just like a series of gifts. So yeah, so that's kind of my method now is write the book, send it to Angie, and be like, is this okay?
This is okay.
And then her being like, no.
Was it easier to write the second book than the first one?
The second book was actually harder to write. So my writing process, the way I work is that once I get an idea for a book, I will write out every single thing I know about the book and about the story in bullet point form. Like this happens, and then this happens, and this happens, and then this happens, and this happens. And then I don't start writing until I have the first line. And then once the first line comes, that's when I know I'm ready to write. Like, so my sci-fi romance that I just finished writing, the first line is, I'm going to die here. And that's the first line of the book. And so I got my first line of Reckoning, and I was like, oh, okay, I'm ready to go. And I put off writing it for a really long time because I didn't think I was a strong enough writer yet to write it. It's probably the most complicated book that I've ever written. The biggest complaint that I get about Ruin is that Ruin is very much a character and romance driven novel. And that's because Ruin is me laying the foundation and the groundwork for Reckoning. Like Ruin has to walk so that Reckoning can jump off the side of a cliff and blow up, if that makes sense.
Yes, it sounds, yes.
So I spent a long time putting it off just because I was afraid I didn't have the skill to really be able to pull it off. And then it got to a certain point where I was like, fuck, I really have to, like, I can't put this off anymore. I just have to write it, I guess. And I wrote 2 different fics while writing that book because I needed a break. So I wrote like, I would probably say like half of Reckoning. And then I wrote my Raylo one shot, The Edge of Despair, which is a canonical, it's very canonical. It's like a one shot of like Ray a few months after Ben dies. Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen the Star Wars movies,
get out of here then.
But yeah, and it's like it's essentially like, could you have sex with a Force ghost? Let's find out.
I hope the answer is yes.
Oh my god, yeah, I hope the answer is yes.
The answer is yes, you can have sex with a Force ghost. But yeah, and then I got like another like quarter of the way through the book, and then I wrote The Gallows. And then I went back and finished the book and was like, okay, well, this is done, I guess. And then I was really nervous that I took a lot of risks with Reckoning that I I was very nervous I wasn't going to pull off, and was very nervous weren't going to that Angie was going to come to me and be like, you can't do this. And thankfully she didn't do that.
Yeah.
And then I've had one other person beta read it, and they thankfully also didn't say, what the fuck are you doing? Quit it. So yeah, so now it's with my line editor, and it will allegedly be coming out on April 29th.
Oh my god.
So exciting. I can't
so
believe you
cool.
wrote all those things at the same time.
Yeah,
though.
I'm like, I just want to like look inside your brain and be like, where do you keep all these like
right?
stories
It's a
and
mess.
thoughts? Like a little filing system in there.
It's a mess in here.
It's a
It's
mess.
a mess in here.
It's a mess in here.
But I like
yeah.
falling asleep thinking about what I'm gonna write the next day. It's very
Mhm.
comforting for me to think about that as I'm falling asleep. So when I don't have a project, I actually just came up with a project today. Thank God.
Mhm.
But like when I have a project, I'll literally lay in bed and be like, okay.
Now I can
But
sleep.
what's funny is that in Ruin, one of the very first scenes I actually thought of, I don't know if you're there, this is not going to mean anything to you guys, but is maybe it'll mean something to the people listening, is the library scene. Have you gotten there yet?
No.
I don't think so. Maybe I'm not
Is
as far as I think I am then, if it's in the beginning. I haven't.
It's not in the beginning.
Oh, okay, good. I was like, okay, I don't think so.
Slow burn.
I love a slow burn.
But yeah, the library scene, if you know, you know, is the was one of the first scenes that I thought of for Ruin.
Oh, okay.
I'll be waiting for that.
And then like you
It's
worked your way
available on
back.
Kindle Unlimited.
It's a
Sorry, what?
I said, did you work your way back from that scene, or it was just like
I write linear. I write linearly. So I essentially will just like when I come up with scene ideas, I write them down. And then once I have all my once I have my like outline, I put them into like a checklist, and then I'll start going through, but I don't always stay with the outline. It's essentially like, it's like a rough kind of roadmap. And then sometimes things veer off and go in other directions and do other things. But yeah, thankfully it all worked out.
Yeah.
That's so cool. I think it's so interesting that you won't start writing until you come up with the first line. That's so cool.
Yeah, it's a very it's almost like ripping a band-aid off, but like once I
Yeah.
have that first line, it like just kind of usually like pours out of me. Obviously Reckoning was like an exception. But yeah, it's usually like, okay, cool, like I know what's going to happen now, I know how I'm going to do this. But yeah, it was interesting to write Reckoning after writing Ruin, because I already knew who the characters were. Whereas like in Ruin, I struggled with Aurelia, probably more than any other character I've ever written. And since then, any character I've ever written, because I knew Ren. I knew who Ren was. I didn't know what side of him we were going to see. I originally wrote him very much like a villain, where it was like he was a villain, he was unapologetically a villain. And I just kept being like, oh, like, okay, well, like we've seen that. But like, what about this aspect where like he's a villain, but like he's fighting it every step of the way. But like he's resigned to it, and at the same time, he's like there's like a push and pull inside of him. Whereas like with Aurelia at first, she was like a crescendo. So she didn't speak at first, and then she would slowly, as time went on, start speaking. And she went through a bunch of different iterations, and eventually it came to the idea of like, no, she speaks, but there's a hand on her throat. And so then it's like, who does she become once that hand gets released? And once she can have the freedom to be, you know, somebody, whoever she wants to be. So yeah, but yeah, my goal was to really try to write a female main character that you rooted for and that you wanted to spend time with. Because I really view Ruin as Aurelia's book, and Ruin is Ren's book, and Reckoning is Aurelia's book.
Oh,
okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I knew, or when we meet Aurelia's character from the beginning, I love how, and this isn't a spoiler, because you guys probably already read this parts in the very beginning, but you describe her as like the ocean, and even she like says in that like little line, she doesn't even know like how deep whatever it goes.
Yeah.
So I just love the idea that even she doesn't know how powerful she is, like starting out in the beginning. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that was cool.
Yeah, I mean,
That
her
was really
story
cool.
is really just beginning.
Yeah.
Whereas like Ren is timeless. He's been around since before time began. And his, you know, his journey is very much in ruin versus Reckoning is like really a continuation of Aurelia's journey. So if you like female rage, you're going to love Reckoning.
Literally female
Love
like
it.
I had to take a break because I was reading so many female rage books and like just watching so many like female rage movies lately. I mean, obviously I always say I'm taking a break and then I just never do. Like then I was watching Midsummer like 2 days ago.
Just
so
say, yeah, you
I was over at Stacey's house. She's like, "You want to watch Pearl?" I'm like, "I mean, I guess it's 2:00 on like a Wednesday."
I'm
but
like
okay.
really into the Pearl like X trilogy lately too.
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
Like,
So I love it. I love unhinged female characters. I'm just like, give them all the power and all the rage.
Then you might like this one. But
that's so great.
Cool. So I love that we know about Reckoning now, and then you kind of hinted at a sci-fi book you have coming up. So it seems like you have like a lot built up, like you're always thinking of stuff. So I just kind of want like if you want to talk about like some more future projects or like a little bit more about any others or Reckoning. I know we're not spoiling anything for people, but
yeah, so I will say that Ruin is a duology. And that there may be a third interconnected standalone.
I love that.
So cool.
Maybe. That's already written.
It might come out.
Yeah. It's like, it could be out there, but like it is.
But who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know what's gonna happen. But no, so there's plans for there to be an additional third book, but who knows what's gonna happen. I recently wrote a sci-fi romance that is like a space heist, which was cool, and I kept waiting for the FBI to show up.
Right,
I was googling like
your Google search.
how do you make a heist? How do you plan a heist? What would it be like to climb in an air vent? Like, what would it be like to climb in an would you die from this? It's like a lot of like me asking Google things and then occasionally me just typing in Google, I'm writing a book.
Yeah, right.
I'm an author.
This is not weird.
Yeah. Yeah, and then other than that, I have some other writing ideas that I'm thinking about. There's a project that I'm like literally just talked through with Farah today that I'm hoping will be a thing and that y'all might see at some point. Wow, that was super vague.
A thing at some point.
Maybe it's something that you'll read with your eyeballs at some point. But yeah, I mean, I think that those are probably the main things is Reckoning. Reckoning is with my line editor right now. There's a bunch of things up in the air with that, but I'm excited for y'all to read it. And it's looking like April is going to be the date. So
yay.
So cool.
Yeah.
Yay.
We love it. That's so exciting.
I have one quick question before we go to the game. Now that you're like a published author, are you done writing fan fiction or like would you ever go back to it? Is it
you know, I am so incredibly grateful for fan fiction. I would not be where I am without it. This is starting to sound like a very political answer. I promise I am going to answer your question. I would say that for me personally, fan fiction gave me a lot, but it also took a lot. And for me, especially, I experienced a lot of hate. I experienced a lot of bullying, and I experienced just a lot of like very intense stuff around the fan fiction community. That it got to a point where I just could no longer justify the emotional cost that it took. So I guess this is all to say that like at this time I have no plans to go back to fan fiction. And yes, a lot of that does have to do with obviously like the experiences I had, especially like towards the end of like my work getting plagiarized and the intense comments that messages I would get very like inundated with messages demanding that I release more chapters, yelling at me for X, Y, and Z, offering me money and things like that. And it just got to the point where I was just like, I can't justify the amount of time and emotional cost that this is taking for me to even just like, I can't avoid it, if that makes sense. But I do hope, like, I always hope that maybe like in the future, something might change. But as of right now, for me, I would prefer to spend my writing time writing things that not only can I like sell, but I can also protect. Because I can protect Ruin a lot more than I can protect my fan fictions. Like even just getting that one plagiarized Drary fic off of AO3 took weeks. And it was a very long process, which is understandable because AO3 is a volunteer organization and you're in a queue and you just have to wait, but it's agonizing versus with Ruin, I can send a takedown notice and it's handled. So yeah, this is a really long-winded answer to that question. I guess it's just like such a multifaceted answer where I don't want to just be like, no, because I don't want people to think that I'm ungrateful or like I've abandoned my roots. Like it was a very long decision and a long conversation that I had like with my friends and with my husband and just kind of coming to the realization, you know, I have so much on my plate in my personal life as well that it was like juggling my family responsibilities with publishing a book and then also fan fiction. It's like if there's something that has to go, fan fiction is the thing that has to go.
Yeah, that's fair.
I mean, I think that is so understandable, and it's not the same thing, but like we like switched from just like a fan fiction podcast to fiction books because we love fan fiction and like we're not writing anything as a group, we're just talking about it. But even us just talking about it, there is so much happening in the community that like we just didn't feel like having a podcast about fan fiction was going to be like the best thing happening. Like we still love to talk about it and we're not opposed to talking about fan fictions in the future, but it's just like a better, I guess,
it's a landscape that has changed significantly, especially in the last probably like 6 months to a year. Especially I think with the announcement of Sen's acquisition, which is like incredible and I'm so excited for them. And just with the kind of mainstreamization of fan fiction, I think in some aspects is really wonderful. And then obviously like there's two sides to every coin. And unfortunately sometimes it means that like I'm so public. I think I would have a different experience if I wasn't so public facing. Like you know what I look like. Like I don't know what Hey Jude 19 looks like. You know what I mean? Whereas like I think for me, I'm an easy target because you can go on my Instagram, you can go on my TikTok, and like it's here I am. Versus like so, and it's harder for me to protect myself and protect my work that way. So I mean, my hope is that as more people join fan fiction and as the discourse around etiquette becomes more normalized, that more people will start to understand the way that it's consumed. I literally had a conversation with a woman on a plane about this, where she was like asking me about the Akamath Resand fanfic. And I was like, oh, that's fan fiction. She was like, oh, so I can't buy it. And I was like, well, I've got an hour with you on this plane.
Let me tell you.
Let's talk about this. And it was literally me like talking her through like, okay, this is fan fiction. You can't buy, like talking her through the whole, and she was just like, I had no idea. And it's just like, you know, it's just something that I think we have to continue to, if we're going to be in this space, we have to continue to educate. Because people don't know unless they know. And then obviously, you know, there are people that are like, I don't care.
There are definitely people like that.
But I think 99% of people just don't know. So it comes down to educating. Wow, what a tangent. No, I have no plans. Cut all of that out. No,
We're
I have
not-
no plans
I
to
know, yeah.
continue fan fiction.
The answer was no.
No,
That's
Chanel.
if you wanted to know, you just know. So
No,
don't get your hopes up.
no, I have no plans at this time. I mean, I would love to write more Raylo fan fiction, but honestly, Lucasfilm, if you're listening, call me. I was just like, all of my Raylo fanfic is canon compliant. I know how to bring Ben back from the dead.
Please hit her up. Bring him
Somebody
back.
do it,
Call
please.
me.
He
Bring him
deserved
back.
better.
Bring him back.
He
did deserve
deserved
better.
At any time. I'm ready to go.
Mhm.
Hopefully by the time you're watching this, I hope that I'm watching this having met Adam Driver in New York.
I would literally die.
I don't want to make you guys jealous, but me and Ashley went to college where he went to college for a semester.
Mhm.
We weren't there obviously together,
Right.
but
But
in my
you
head,
almost-
But we
the
walked those
halls that he
grounds.
walked.
we walked those grounds
Last-
together.
You walked those grounds. Yeah.
Last year, I almost worked an event that he was going to be at here. And when I tell you, I found out the next day that I would have met him, I was so upset.
I would have
But
cried.
yeah, I'm hoping to get tickets to see his Broadway show so I can like stand at the back door afterwards and just be like, Adam,
Crying. I'd be crying.
My husband's just behind me like, hi.
Yeah.
Adam,
I don't know this lady.
Can you take a picture with my wife?
Amazing.
That's awesome.
Jealous. So jealous.
So yeah, no, I have no plans to continue to write fan fiction,
Awesome.
Fair.
Awesome.
Yeah.
but who knows what the future will hold.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful to the fan fiction community. I'll keep reading fan fiction, and
Same.
like if people like engage with me about it, like I'm happy to talk about it, and I'm
Mhm.
happy to make recs, and
Mhm.
I don't want it to be, I'm not pretending like I never wrote it. I have no plans to remove my works at this
Yeah.
time. Obviously, if people start selling it, like they did with SEA, and start kind of abusing it, at that point, I
Mhm.
will start removing things.
Mhm.
I think people have stopped telling me just because they're afraid that I'll start removing more things.
Oh,
Like I found out the other day somebody was selling in silence and submission, and then they were like, "Please don't take it down." I was like,
Dude, it's-
Gosh.
How
Like-
frustrating.
it's got to be so frustrating because, like you said, it can be such a positive place to get stories and read them.
Yeah.
It can be so toxic. People can be such assholes. And so it's just like wild. Some of it is people just not being educated, I guess. But at the same time, like you said, some people just don't care. They just don't care. Like they're just going to do what they want to do. So
I want to
that's
put this
hard.
out there. I miss like 2011 when very few people
No
knew
one.
about fan
I wasn't
fiction.
here.
I was in high school and I was reading that Twilight fan
Here
fiction.
it
No one
always comes
fucking
back
knew
to
about this.
Twilight.
Always.
Always.
I
And
read
TikTok
a Twilight
wasn't a
fanfic the other
thing.
day.
Really? Yeah. See, and now that TikTok's blown
Felt
up.
weird.
Yes. Anyway, I'm
Janelle
just saying.
still
I miss
reads
that
Twilight
era.
fan fiction. She would
Yes.
love it.
Yeah.
If you have any Twilight fanfic recs for me, please send them over.
Look at you.
I
Sure,
got
get
you.
it.
get a
Gosh,
pin
Hit
out.
me up.
I got
Slide
you.
into my DMs.
Do you
Mhm.
care if it's Edward or Jacob? You don't care either one.
I just recently read Jacob one,
Oh,
and I was like,
okay,
because
okay.
I didn't have a team.
Okay, yeah.
I have such
I've
a
been both
boner
teams.
for
I'm
Kristen
bi.
Stewart.
Ugh,
I was-
who doesn't?
I have such a boner for her that I just was like, I'm happy
Yeah.
with Kristen.
Mhm.
Did you
Thank you.
did you watch Charlie's Angels with her?
Yes. Oh my God.
Oh,
Yes.
God.
I cannot believe that movie did not get more hype
I
than it did.
know.
I won't go on
She
a
was-
tangent
she
because I
was
have a lot
peak
of
in that
feelings
movie.
about
She looked-
this, but
She looked amazing.
her in that movie alone, I don't know how
I
it
know.
wasn't just like a blockbuster.
Oh my God.
I
It was
know.
just truly some of her best work. And
I
I'm sure she
know.
like hates that she.
I know.
I know.
But
Yeah.
no, yeah, I was never like an Edward or Jacob sort of girl. I didn't actually read Twilight until I was in college.
Mm.
Oh.
And I had to read it for like, so I studied theater in college, and I had to read it because we were doing like a parody. And so like I had to, but like fun facts about me, when I was in college and I was studying theater, I was always like an inanimate object. Like, so in Beauty and the Beast, I was like a gargoyle on the stage. Like I didn't do anything. So But yeah, so that's how I first read Twilight. And then I actually never have actually physically read all of the books. I listened to them on audiobook when I first moved to Chicago. And I didn't know anybody. And I would literally just walk like for miles and miles every day, listening to Twilight and all like the Twilight Saga and all of the Harry Potter books. So I've also never physically read all of the Harry Potter books. I've only ever listened to them on audiobook.
Well, the audiobook is incredible for Harry Potter. So I've done both and I like the audiobook. So
yeah. And I have no plans to read or give that horrible person any money. So
yeah.
That's how that's where we go with that. Is fuck J.K. Rowling.
Yeah.
True. Oh yeah.
Very true. Very true. But that's super interesting. I guess, what was your first impression of Twilight since you read it later? Like, I'm assuming Ashley and Stacey, you read it in high school, like I did middle school, high school. Since you were more mature, were you like, this is toxic?
Yeah. I was like, is she okay? And then it was just like wild anti-abortion propaganda.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It was just like very more like, I'm surprised there wasn't soaking in it. Like, just like,
oh my God.
Very intense Mormonism.
And like, also the like racism against the Native Americans.
Yes.
You don't realize that until after the fact. You're like, what is happening?
And just the fact that the Quileute in no way benefited from anything from Twilight is just so fucked up. So the Twilight fic I read recently was actually a rewrite of Eclipse, where Bella goes to therapy and breaks up with Edward.
Good for her.
And like ends up with Jacob. It was weird. It's like I feel the way I felt reading it the way I feel reading YA, which is like I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
Like I am like how do you do, fellow youths? Like
here I am.
It's like I shouldn't be here.
Yeah.
But I had a great time. It was nice to like feel like I was a part of that world without Mormonism.
Yeah.
Yeah. My TikTok page is all about like, because I didn't know this is so off topic, but we're talking about Twilight, about like soaking and stuff was. So then I went down this like rabbit hole to figure everything out, and like I can't help it, Chanel.
And now it's on your For You page?
Yeah.
It's just like, we know what this girl wants.
Yeah.
My For You page is so unhinged anywhere. It's like all this, like this guy interviewing people at this Mormon college and they say unhinged stuff.
Yes, like, yes, I've seen this.
Then it's like Interview with the Vampire stuff. Then it's like Draco Malfoy stuff. Yeah.
Don't get me started. I have so many opinions about the Interview with the Vampire show.
No spoilers. No spoilers. I haven't started yet.
I'm on episode 4 of season 2, and I'm obsessed.
Stop.
Obsessed.
Okay.
Have you read the book?
Julie Soto, if you're listening to this, I'm so sorry. I haven't started it yet. Okay. So
have you guys have y'all read the books?
No.
Okay.
I don't think I have.
I am a diehard Anne Rice fan. So Anne Rice is really where I like became inspired to be a writer. I have like literally right over here, I have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 of her books. Dang. Okay. Have you read those?
Stacey, you made me read those too, and it is crazy.
Where they milk, where the dudes get boobs and they drink the breast milk.
And there's so much spanking in it. So much spanking in it.
There's a lot of spanking going on.
Dang.
Like,
okay, sorry.
So much.
But, yes, I can't believe I've read that and not Interview with a Vampire, but go ahead. Sorry.
Honestly, don't read it at this point until the show is done, because I can't enjoy the show because my longest relationship is Lestat de Liancourt. Because I started reading those books when I was 11, which, by the way, don't read those books when you're old. It's not appropriate.
It's not.
I was like, there was like an underground sort of like thing at my school where we were reading dirty books, and it was like weird. But yeah, so because I've been reading these books for 24 years at this point. I have such a strong attachment to the source material that I am not their target audience, especially because there are so many nods to the source material that it almost feels like they're just like, Like
Mm-hmm.
we know what it is. It's not like Queen of the Damned, the movie, where it was like Queen of the Damned, the movie was like somebody read the book and then they told somebody else what the book was about, and then they told somebody else, but that person was half asleep, and then that person told somebody else, but they were drunk, and then they wrote the screenplay. Like this is like they're honoring the source material very much, but it's just it's so different from the source material that I just can't enjoy it.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But there's like a lot especially in the first few episodes of Interview, there are multiple lines that are actually in the books, especially in the Vampire Lestat. Like when Lestat says to Louis, "Will you protect me from the wolves?" is a literal nod to the beginning of Lestat's whole like life living in rural France, the French countryside, as a marquis, the son of a marquis, and having to go out into the woods and hunt these wolves to protect his village. I have to stop talking right now.
I know. I'm yes.
Tell us more. So interesting.
Thank you. This podcast is now about the Interview with the Vampire, the Vampire Chronicles.
We have circled we've done all of the
we told you it's unhinged on here. Like we just go so random.
You're like, wow, you hit all of the different genres.
The one thing that I think is really cool is how they have redone Louis' character. And I think that what's his name? Jacob.
Oh, the actor?
Yes, the actor. I can't think of it now too.
I know.
He is phenomenal.
Oh,
I think he and I think the way that they redid Louis' character is super cool and super interesting, and I think it's a really nice way of kind of working with the fact that like the original Louis is a very problematic character. He is,
Jacob Anderson.
Jacob Anderson, yeah. Like the original Louis is a very problematic character, so I really liked the way that they kind of reworked it. But yeah, the whole Claudia thing was weird to me, that they aged her up, especially because like, and I understand why, because where are you going to find a 5-year-old that can act like that? But just especially because Claudia is a representation of Anne's daughter that died of cancer, and like her kind of living on in Anne's within Anne's work. I have to stop talking.
I love it.
No, we like it.
I'm so passionate about the Vampire Chronicles.
Right? Oh my gosh. Yeah, you're a vampire girly.
Listen, like Desire and Destruction and In Paths of Flame are pretty much like they're Anne Rice style vampires, if that makes sense. But they can fuck.
No,
sign me up.
So
in the canonical Anne Rice, I point because that's where my Anne Rice books are. In canonical Anne Rice, the vampires don't fuck. They can't. They don't have the ability to. Which I also like that's something that they changed too about the show, because I think they fuck.
Right?
I didn't know they couldn't. Yeah, I didn't know they couldn't in the books.
Not in the books.
Well, they are in the show.
I was gonna say, Stacey made it seem so steamy.
Yeah, I think in the show they do.
Like
in
the first
show
episode.
They do. So very pleased about that, because if there's anything we want, us vampire girlies have wanted, it's Lestat and Louis fucking.
Right.
Every episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I would say my vampires are very much inspired by Anne Rice's vampires, except they can fuck. So I guess they're very inspired by the show.
Right.
Vampire.
Little did you know.
Little did I know. So yeah, I wish I could enjoy it. I wish I could watch it. I know I'm insufferable.
No.
And I've accepted that.
Voice in your head.
I'm gonna get so many emails now from people being like, "How dare you?
How dare you about the show?" No.
Awesome.
Julie Soto's gonna contact me and be like, "I've unfollowed you."
Unfriended. I love it. Okay, we're gonna do a quick game because we've kept you way longer than we're supposed to. But
I mean, maybe if I hadn't gone on a whole rant about Interview with the Vampire.
No, I'm here for it. Yes. It's all staying in.
It's just gonna be this or that.
Okay.
You pick which one you like. Stacey and Ashley will chime in, but there's really no points in this game. No one wins, no one loses. It's great.
Love it.
Okay, do you prefer audiobooks or physical books?
I just have to, I can't explain. I just have to choose one or the other.
No,
Yeah,
you can explain.
Yeah, you can explain.
If I've never read something before, a physical book.
Okay.
If I have read it and loved it, audiobook.
Okay.
Oh, like a
I don't
reread?
like I'm a huge rereader. And I don't like listening to books I haven't read before. Because I'm too anxious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, that makes sense because I get anxious listening to audiobooks sometimes.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't flip to the back page to know what's going on.
Yeah, she's one of those.
Listened to Serpent in the Wings at night, and I was literally standing in my kitchen just staring off into space, just like listening. I'm like, what's happening?
And then like you'll speed it up, like listen to it at like ×2, and then just to get through it. And then like that's me, and I'm like, I can't. How do I even understand what they're saying? But I have to. Yeah.
And that makes me anxious too. So yeah, I like to listen to books I've already read and enjoyed. And then I like to read books I haven't read before.
Okay.
That's cool.
Okay, sci-fi or fantasy?
At this moment, sci-fi, I guess.
Oh.
Yeah. You're in like a sci-fi mood?
Yeah, at this moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's fair.
We like them both. We like them both.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you prefer writing in the morning or at night?
Morning.
Okay. All right. Do you prefer the hero or the villain?
The villain.
Duh.
Obviously.
Duh, Chanel.
What do we do? I'm just kidding.
I mean, some people like a good hero. Okay. Plot driven or character driven books?
I really think it depends. For me, if the character isn't strong enough, I can't, like, if I don't care about the character, I don't care about the plot. So like for me, like, make me care, I guess, is my big thing, is like, if I don't care, I don't care if it's the best plot in the world and the best premise. If I don't care about the character, then like, why am I going on this journey? I'm tired.
Yeah. I was gonna say the same thing. Like, I can read a book where the plot's just like kind of okay and the character's amazing and it'll stay with me, versus like the plot's really good but the characters weren't super rememberable or anything.
I have to have some sort of relationship with them, or else, because like, or else there's, why are we here?
Yeah, that actually really makes sense. Okay, do you prefer enemies to lovers or friends to lovers?
Enemies to lovers.
Same.
Good.
Nothing better.
Good answer. Okay. Do you prefer fated mates or forbidden love?
Fated mates. I'm treating this like a job interview right now.
I'm surprised. I thought you would have said the other thing, so I like that. I'm surprised.
Yeah.
Can it be both, Chanel? Can it be both?
Honestly, yeah. It could
if
be.
you've never read Amanda Richardson's Ravage Castle series, you should. If you like forbidden love, and like taboo romance, read that. Especially because her first book, Pray Tell, is very Hermione coded.
Stacey, send me all these.
I'm looking them up. I will.
You're writing them down.
She's writing them down.
I am.
Okay, last one is duologies or trilogies?
Duology, because Ruin's a duology.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because Ruin, the Infernus duology.
Yeah.
Is a duology.
That's right.
You can find it on Amazon. Kindle Unlimited.
Get it now. Woohoo. Okay. You won. You got all the points.
Thank you so much. I love winning.
Yeah. Woohoo. Well, thank you. Okay, now we can do some kudos. Stacey, you want to start it off, and then we can...
So obviously my first kudos is to you. I'm so pumped that you could come on and work on your schedule. We've been really excited about this. So just thank you so much. It's been really fun. Like, it's so nice when we get to hang out and like vibe really well with someone. So it's been really fun. I enjoy all of our tangents and everything. So
Yeah.
I love it. And then I also want to kudos Ashley, because yesterday she watched my 2 kids so I could go see Wicked, and I felt like a human again for like 2.5 hours. I did.
How
And then I
was it?
cried. I cried like 3 times. Yeah, I cry all the time. But like, especially in that, I've been obsessed with it since like 2007, guys. Like,
yeah.
It's been a long time coming.
That's when I went to go see it. Yeah, right when it came out. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, you were in middle school. I was in high school. I was graduating. It's fine.
Oh, okay, good.
And you too, Chanel. I love you. Obviously.
Love you.
Chanel's okay.
Okay. You see, at the beginning of the episode, I was her best friend. Now I'm just okay.
It fluctuates. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I'll go next. Mine is obviously for you because I was so excited to meet you, and especially after I read The Gallows, and I've started Ruin, which, by the way, I'm a character-driven reader, so I'm even more excited to get into this book since you said this one is like a character-driven book, which is just my jam. So, I just know you must be so busy, and we just feel so honored that you took time out of your day to like sit down and have these unhinged talks with us and tell us about yourself. And we got to meet your cat, which makes me so excited.
He's right here.
Amazing. Just thank you so much for coming on tonight. It was so fun.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna piggyback and say the exact same thing. Gillian, thank you so much for coming on our podcast. Yeah, like it really means a lot. Like we were saying, it's just taking time out to speak with us and chat with us and go on tangents, and so it's been really fun. And I'm gonna say I'm super excited to, obviously I started the book a little bit, but I'm obsessed not only with Hadestown but like Greek mythology, and so yeah, this is like really making me excited to want to finish this book, and we're gonna discuss it on another episode. So yay, thank you. And yeah,
if you hate it, just tell me not to listen.
Right?
Like, could you not listen this week?
Just be like, don't, girl.
Sure.
Sit this one out.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what we're gonna think. Yeah. But yeah, like I said, just thank you, and we're super excited to read this book, and especially your next book coming out too. So yay! I love duologies. Like that's the perfect amount for me.
Yeah, that's Chanel's favorite.
Yeah,
it is.
I'm so glad. Yeah, people have seemed really excited about it being a duology. So I mean,
yay!
I hope it goes well.
It's gonna go great.
You have any kudos?
I mean, obviously for the 3 of you, thank you so much for having me on. And, you know, it's like an honor to take time to speak with y'all, and I mean, especially I've been watching what y'all have been doing for a while and following for a long time. And so it's nice to like finally meet y'all and be here. And just like your support means the world to me. And, you know, kind of like what I said before, like my whole foundation for my whole, you know, success, whatever that means, really is on the foundation of fan fiction and of like readers like you.
But your favorite truly, readers.
Yeah. My favorite fanfic fanatics. But no, I mean, I think I mean, that's the biggest kudos is to you and to my readers who are so supportive and have been so supportive and so kind, and you know, transitioning with me on this journey from fan fiction and you know, being here now and you know, signing up for this journey. And so yeah, thank you for having me on, and thank you for letting me wax poetic about the Vampire Chronicles.
Yes.
Yes, anytime. Thank you again.
You wanna lead us out, Stace?
Yeah. Okay, guys. Everyone have a great week. Make sure you read what you like, and it should be Ruin because it's epic. Yeah.
Yes.